Can you make money playing Yu-Gi-Oh? Today that's going to be the topic that me and Giant Skyhawk will be talking all about right now. He'll also be playing my T-Set Pass guessing game, and today's hint is, I hope you've been counting. I hope you've been counting will give you a hint as to what my face down monster and my face down spell trap zone card is. So keep that in mind and let me know in the comments, do you know what cards I've hidden in my T-set? Until then, thank you very much to all my donators. You'll get a verbal shout out at the end of the video. And without further ado, let's get right into the discussion. We'll also be having a little chat about the ban list from last week right at the end. People want to know, can you make money playing Yu-Gi-Oh? What do you think of, in general, of going into a Yu-Gi-Oh for the money? I know people talk about going into Yu-Gi-Oh for the clout, e-clout, I don't know what that is, but there we go. What do you think of money in Yu-Gi-Oh?
It's amazing to hear the question just framed straight up like that, because when we were talking about it before, it was tough to think about. I think if your sole purpose of getting into Yu-Gi-Oh is money, you are both misguided and you're going to be sorely disappointed. It's from a prizing perspective, you can make money, but you won't do it consistently, nor will it be enough to support you. It's just like a cool thing that happens sometimes if you win a mat.
A nice little treat for doing so well, not paying your bill for the month.
Exactly, on top of you having to go through the effort to sell your prizing in the first place. So it's also a time investment, when that time investment could be spent doing anything else.
Something profitable. And,
or something not profitable, honestly.
True.
Invest in a skill set for yourself. I know people who make money buying and selling cards, and that is something that is doable, but you have to be good at what you're doing, and it's something that you have to be constantly watching. And it's also very volatile and not stable whatsoever, and completely often at the whims of many people who are not you.
So you're saying that I have to become a VTuber, and that's the goal. Then I'll be rich. Because I can't sell my cards, I can't sell my prizing, but if I'm a funny man on the internet, then I can have all the money.
But you can't talk about them.
You can't.
That's probably the most reasonable way that you could conceive of it. But that also, we both do content. We know that's building an audience. That's having a support base. That's going through like any number of affiliate links, Patreon. It's not like it's not free money. It's a lot of hard work, and to support yourself, you have to be in like get to that top level of the space. And in a niche hobby, it's easy to carve out a space for yourself, but it's not easy to carve out a space big enough to do that. The money stuff is kind of weird. So prizing is the thing that I think people wish they could do. Like they look at something like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon, and they think Magic the Gathering offers, I believe they do cash prizes on top of other stuff. And they used to have, I don't know if they have their like pro circuit anymore. I think they disbanded it, but they had, they used to have like a full on like pro circuit where people would play, and that was what they did. And Pokemon has like pretty impressive cash pricing for their regional events.
And they've just upped their cash pricing. They already had better cash pricing than us, and they've just gone and upped it again.
It's not hard to have better cash pricing than we do. We're sitting at 0.
Yeah, it's a real low bar we like to run. So just as like the layman's explanation, cash pricing, the ideal world for anyone who's really good at things, same way that if you're a professional footballer or a professional, darts player, if you were very, very good, top of your field, you'd go to a tournament, you'd clean up big, you'd win like a big lump of sum, and then you would have a bunch of cash to either invest back in the game or to spend on bills and whatever you'd actually want to spend money on. Yu-Gi-Oh does not offer cash pricing, and that is a big thing that we are not doing that lots of other card games are doing. Like I said, Pokemon, Magic, I imagine Lorcana might offer cash pricing, but there's loads of card games and most of them offer cash pricing. We do not. And that was due to the wishes of the creator, correct? He did not want it to be like a monetized game in the same way.
So there is some speculation about that. I have not been able to find a source for that, but that's like the thing that the community seems to believe. It would not surprise me if that was true. And I think there is something that's good about not having cash prizing. One issue I think with it that is kind of like a common counter argument to cash prizing is that it creates kind of like a nasty incentive.
Yeah.
Trading. So something like Pokemon, for example, their TCG obviously has cash prizing too, but their VGC situation, the video game format also has cash prizing, and it is a lot harder to cheat. And I think something that is problematic with the card game is that there is a huge element of moral hazard at like a very, very high level of competitive play.
Really?
Where
significant enough that it's a problem.
I think so, because there are so many situations where you could just straight up, like I have been in situations where players have just straight up lied to judges, where it's like you can be like, nobody's watching. Okay, my opponent did this, and then you end up in a judge call situation where there's no way to really resolve that even through an investigation, right? So people at that level will do anything. Not everybody, but it happens.
It only takes one, doesn't it? Like,
yeah, I've sat across from the table, and so I had hoped that Master Duel would help resolve that issue. Master Duel, I think, would be much easier for a company like Konami to give cash prizing for, because it's I don't know how you cheat that system at an official tournament, right? I imagine it would be very difficult.
Distracting mate. My mate's too distracting. Judge.
Yeah. That's a DDoS time.
Judge, I was clicking my mate and I skipped a step.
Now, I think, and it's also like it makes the aura of an event kind of like you got this thing hanging over you. Like a comparison I like to make is the FGC fighting game community. They've had cash prizing forever, even if it's just like small cash prizing for pools. So I think even when that environment of like cash prizing in a one-on-one game is there, even though there are issues with it, I think ultimately it's still better than what we have now. So for example, I got top 8 at a remote duel regional, 100-ish players yesterday. If that was like an FGC event, there might be a pot, and cash prizing could be like $150 to $200, which for a small event is pretty good. This is what I got.
You got a beautiful mat. I don't see what you're complaining about. That's a 200-pound mat right there if I ever saw it.
So exactly. To be fair, it is a beautiful mat, and if you look at what it's selling for, what it's listing for, probably it would sit at like somewhere between like 130 and 140 Canadian, I think is when I last checked, which is good, but you have to go through the effort to sell it, and you have to find a buyer, which frankly for playmats is kind of difficult. Let me just pull this out. From various remote duel event results and side event results, I've got this gigantic stack of playmats that I have maybe used 2 of in my entire life. Yeah. And I have on and off been trying to sell them forever. And it is just very difficult to do. Like, especially when they're like of higher value, it's harder to unload them. So for a lot of these people, unless they're like really high-end collector's items, like maybe the World Championship mats, it's difficult to unload them even if they have value. So you're asking to get value out of their results, you're asking people to go through a whole bunch of extra effort. And that, I think that kind of sucks. One model that I really like actually is the One Piece TCG.
I haven't seen what they do for money. I've played the game, but I haven't looked at the competitive. What do they do?
So they don't do cash prizing, but this is something that I've seen people talk about as a way to reform Yu-Gi-Oh prizing if they don't want to do cash. And that is alternate arts that are exclusive to event tops for relevant cards. So One Piece has like alt arts for cards that are good in their game or like sick stuff, and they end up being very valuable because not only do collectors want them, but people who want to like max rarity their competitive deck may now want these copies of like I think there's like a special version of Law that you can win at like regional events, and those get very expensive, and there's demand for them because people want them to bling out their decks. So that would be a cool way to do it.
But sensibly though, thinking back to Yu-Gi-Oh pricing, those cards are already cards that are just getting rarity bumped. Now Yu-Gi-Oh has varied with what kind of cards they give away at the top end. So it used to be, well, it's still the case, at very high level tournaments, you get given a card, a special card, to symbolize the fact that you won. Now, in modern days, I don't know how many years back now, but we tend to get these things called Anotherverse monsters, where it's a normal monster. They'll tend to have 2,500 attack, and they'll have some nice, interesting text on it for flavor. The runners-up get a super rare version, and the winner gets an ultra rare. These cards are not good. They're not good to use in play. But in olden days, they used to make special new cards for the winners that used to be cracked. Stuff like Deck Virus. Stuff like the Lightsworn Xyz monster.
Crush Card Virus. It's Minerva the Exalted Lightsworn.
Yes.
The rank 4 Xyz.
How do you feel about those?
I think that's actually the worst of both worlds. Yeah. When a prize card is playable and exclusive, so it's not like an alt art, it's its own thing. It's really bad because that means that there's a deck in a format that's locked behind an unbelievable paywall. So Minerva, I think, is the most recent relevant example of this, where like Lightsworn, if you had Minerva, was a viable competitive deck. But that viable competitive deck was now locked to people who got top 4 at an existing event, or people who wanted to pay $2,000 for a super rare version of a prize card.
And people paid it.
Some people did, which has me worried about how we process things in Yu-Gi-Oh!
If you were a number hunter, Diabolus the Mind Hacker obviously got very prominent when Kashtira first came out, and then very banned. He used to be a prize card, so if you wanted to collect all the numbers, you would have been out of luck. I actually started collecting the numbers before I realized that he was a prize card, and by the time I got to him, it was the week that he got reprinted in that reprint pack. So it lucked out for me. But
Euphoria! Yay.
Oh, it's happened. It's happened multiple times with the numbers. The one I'm missing is the one that gets reprinted the next day. But that's mad. The cards that you can only get from these kind of tournaments, I think, should never be new. Because it means that you're locking the deck. Like you said, Lightsworn was a good deck if you had the Xyz. If you didn't have the Xyz, you had no gas, you had no way to mill off top of deck, and it wasn't worth playing. It's an insane wall to put things behind. However, that does make them very profitable if you want to be Mr. Profit. You win your tournament, you sell your Minerva for 2K. That's a nice chunk of change.
That's kind of why I like the alt arts as an option, and seeing what it's done for One Piece makes me think it would be criminally easy to do for Yu-Gi-Oh! People already like the alt arts that show up. I think the Danger Bigfoot is that's a Yeti is probably my favorite alt art, and the Golden Lord alt art is obviously a banger.
People really like the Nightmare Unicorn alt art with her riding the unicorn.
Yes, Nightmare Unicorn, IP Masquerena, the live twin links.
And people really like those ones.
the community's already shown that they like them. Imagine if at Unchained is the best deck right now. Imagine if you could get an alt art King Yama. If you got top 4 at an event, not only would that card be like expensive because people would want it to max rarity their stuff, but it would be like relevant for the moment. It would be easy to unload quickly, so you don't run into the problem you have with the vanilla monster prize cards that only some collectors might want.
And they do sell, but they don't sell for crazy money.
Yeah, so Anotherverse Dragon probably is like the worst prize card that has been in a long time in terms of value. I think if you wanted a prize card, you could pick one of those up for around $400 at one point, which is a ridiculous amount of money, but for a prize card is incredibly low. Gluttonia, we don't have as much of it on the market yet. We just had a big string of YCSs, so that's still there. And Gluttonia, I will say, is some of the coolest card art that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has had in probably like 5 to 10 years. It is big, eldritch horror, cosmic entity, and the mat is beautiful. To be fair to them, if they're going to give us a mat, it might as well look pretty sick. Yeah. But it's not functionally. It's no different than the Anotherverse Dragon. It is uniquely a level 8 Fiend normal monster, which we did not have. So if you're going to make it a vanilla, it may as well be something unique but not playable, I guess. I don't know. Archfiend will play it, shockingly.
I think you're right. My dream, and what I always thought it should be, is that the card should be custom for the winner. You know, let's say, you know, Jesse Cotton won Worlds with Tia, let's say. He should be able to get a special Shireen or Havnis, you know, in like some kind of, not like more than Starlight, like a beyond Starlight rare for, maybe let him pick, you know, it's something from his list. It can't be any card. And then I think that would be really funny because you would get pros putting jank in their deck to get the rare it when you, so you'd like some Dark Magician fan would be running Tearlament with one Dark Magician just so that DM. When he wins Worlds he can get that DM in the Beyond Starlight rare. And I think that is the kind of bull that I want in Worlds.
The Dragon Link players sneaking a Blue Eyes White Dragon into their lists with a White Stone just to try to get a special Blue Eyes.
Wouldn't you?
I would. Okay. To be fair, that's a brilliant idea because I can think of a number of cards that would be very funny to try to get special rarities of. Honestly, if they, this is funny because I've been asking for this forever. So I play Fluffle, and the Rise of the Duelist cards did not get super rares. They all got commons, when most of the engine is available in super because of that. So honestly, if I were to somehow make it to the top and they were like, "What card do you want?" I'd be like, "Can I have a super rare Fluffle Dolphin, please?"
That's it. That's what we need.
That would be what I would do.
And then they give you the Starlight, and you're like, "No, I need the super for my set." I need 3, please. I just want them for the buy.
I just wanted to match. I just wanted to match Penguin. That's a brilliant idea, actually. It would be really cool. I mean, I think with prizing stuff, people are like, "Oh, logistically, it would be a nightmare." Shut up.
It takes him about like 3 months to post it anyway. Like Joshua Schmidt's only just got his trophy today, right? Like it takes them a while to make it, so just print a card and shove it in the box.
Yep. I think people are like, "Oh, well, I mean, like, surely there's like a bunch of red tape to jump through," and like, on one hand, that's probably true. On the other hand, it's a very large company. I think they can do it.
It's not like we're saying let them make their own card. We're just saying pick a card, we will make it shiny for you. I think it's time for you to play T-Set Pass, the guessing game named after this podcast.
Let's go.
So I have T-Set Pass on my board. Something face down in the monster zone and something face down in the spell and trap zone. Although that may not be a spell or trap, it just has to be legal. It's not an Infernity Archfiend, but it could be an Artifact Scythe.
Okay.
You get a hint.
To legally be there. Okay, so so it could be Silver Sentinel is what you're saying.
It could be Silver Sentinel. You get a hint. You get 2 guesses on the monster, 2 guesses on the spell trap zone. Then you get 3 questions to narrow it down. But that's for for both cards.
Both cards. I talked a big game when you told me about this, and I'm now suddenly realizing I should not have talked a big game. All right. Okay. So do I get the hint first, or do I ask the 3
You get a hint first, otherwise that would be far too mean. So your hint is, I hope you've been counting. Your hint is, on this episode of T-Set Pass, I hope you've been counting.
I hope you've been counting. Okay, so immediately this makes me think counters. So awesome options: counters, turns. I hope you've been counting. It could be. I mean, my immediate thought was linear equation cannon, but that's not really counting. That's like doing an equation. It could also be number monsters. You do like the number monsters.
I do like the number monsters.
You have to count those. I hope you've been counting.
You got 3 questions to narrow it down.
All right. I have some ideas for questions. God, this is like the Okay. This is the limited SEMO series. All right. This is a risky one.
Okay.
But I'm going to ask it and then regret my decisions later. Can either of these cards have counters placed on them?
No.
Okay. Now I can at least erase that train of thought from my head.
You can move away from your spell counter dreams that you've been filling your brain with.
Yeah. So my problem is like monsters, right? So I'm thinking, what on monsters would you have to keep track of? Mm-hmm. I hope you've been counting. So there's the Fortune Ladies, you have to keep track of their levels every turn. There's the FAs, you have to keep track of their levels.
And neither of them get counters, they just get levels. So
they just get levels.
They've not been eliminated by your first question.
Grand Maju, you got to count all the banished cards.
It's true, but in that case, you could be counting things like the trap, the one that does like damage per banish. You could talk about all sorts of
do banished. I hope you've been counting. I'm getting stuck on the word "been" because it means you have to. It's something you have to be continuously keeping track of. I hope you've been counting. Something like until your like X standby phase.
Mayhaps.
I hope you've been counting. Oh my god. Okay. Do any of these cards have an effect that tracks the number of turns that have passed?
No, they do not track the number of turns. Neither of them. We have no final destination here in our spell trap zone. There's nothing.
I am screwed.
You put it all on final death.
Okay, well I got one more question to work with. So I know no spell counters, and it doesn't track turns.
Correct.
So it's making me think.
And you do get 2 guesses on the monster and the spell trap. So you.
I got 2 guesses on each. I could do some blind firing.
You could do some blind firing.
I'll do some blind firing. I'll give one guess for each, and then I'll maybe save my question.
Yeah.
So I hope you've been counting. That doesn't track turns, but tracks something. Okay. I am going to guess that the spell or trap card is your finished, because that counts the number of effect activations.
That is correct. My spell trap is your
There's
finish.
No way!
Yeah,
There's no way! Let's go!
Your finish is a shiny new trap. It counts the number of effect activations in a turn. When it hits 10, it becomes a big girl, and she becomes a 3k monster that can destroy all cards on the opponent's field should they choose to do another again. It's a nasty little trap. From Duelist Nexus, I believe.
Yeah, from the latest set. That is actually, it's such a unique card. I love that. I think there will be a time when somebody tries to use that. I think there will be a deck eventually that plays very heavily into it, and people might try it out. It's weird because it's very conditional, and it screws up a lot of stuff, but it's also very powerful.
Or maybe when there's like a labyrinth equivalent for continuous traps that can sort of tech it out of the deck and set it, I think maybe then it would be very much like, and then also if there's a thrust for continuous, that we can search it, I think that could really change how people view it. But yeah, congratulations, you got the first card, first shot, bang, bang, blind fire.
I cannot believe I got that right. That's unbelievable. Okay. So I have 2 guesses for the monster, and I have 1 more question.
Yes.
I'll blind fire the monster because it went well for me for the spell trap. Monsters that count. I don't know. Where's the where's the count from the Muppets when you need him?
1 2
something. No, it can't be something that you said it doesn't. Turns, so it's not something that gains attack based on the number of turns or levels. Nope. The FA monsters don't do levels, but that's not really like continuous counting. It's just like you use effects that give them levels.
Yeah.
So, and if I consider your finished as an example of I hope you've been counting, it means it's tracking some. I would guess it's tracking some kind of game mechanic.
Nebulous, something to count, yeah.
Nebulous, something to count. I can't think of a monster that counts like the number of attacks. Something to count.
You need like a terrible Vanguard card like those ones, which is like on the 5th attack this turn. You can, like some kind of Nova Grappler thing.
You win the duel and third turn. Well, yeah, but I know it doesn't track turns. I was thinking maybe it's like the gimmick puppet Leo of Disaster or whatever that has the all-win con.
Yeah. No.
Okay. I do have. Okay, I have my monster guess. This may be a mistake. I believe I'm hoping I get the name of this card right. I am going to guess Ghost Trick Angel of Mischief because it counts the number of materials under it to decide if you win the game or not, and that's you win if you have 10 materials on it.
It's a very interesting and good guess, but I'm afraid it's not Angel of Mischief.
Fair enough. Can't blind
fire twice. No, so you still have one more question.
Okay. My final question is, oh Jesus, what can I ask that would narrow this down? I have to see if I can figure out what it's counting. Then I think that's my only way out.
Mayhaps.
I guess I could narrow down the type of monster it is, but with one question, I don't know if that's possible to do. Doesn't count turns.
Counting something.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but I'll try it. Does this card count something that appears on a monster card?
No.
Okay. So it doesn't count. Okay, so that I'm surprised that counted as an answer. So,
I think so.
That means,
I think that's enough of a question.
Okay, so that means it doesn't count attack or defense, and it doesn't count levels. It doesn't count copies of a card, and it doesn't count. That still means it could count banished cards. Because that doesn't like appear on a monster.
Or it could count graveyards. It could count cards in deck. It could count cards in
number of cards. Okay. That's weird because I'm thinking recover, but I don't know if saying that it has 5, that you have to have 5 or. Okay, no. I'm going to lock in my guess. For time's sake, I'm going to run myself into circles. I think I am going to guess recover. Recover is a level 1 tuner that says that you can't. If you have, you can special summon it from your graveyard for free. If you have 5 at least, or like 5 or more fewer cards in your extra deck than your opponent. So I'm going to say it's recover.
It's a very well-educated guess. However, I'm sad to say it's no dice. You were right. You were going to talk yourself around in circles. You talked yourself so around in circles that you missed a very easy one. It's Big Nib. It's Big Nibiru.
It's Nibiru. Counts the number of summons. Oh my god.
I thought that your finished would be the harder one to get, and you would use. I thought you may get Nibiru first, and then use your Nibiru to figure out your finished. And once you got your finished, I thought I was finished. I thought you'd be on that Nibiru track, right? They're basically the same cut.
That is a really easy one. Count the number of summons. I was thinking summon limit, but then I just completely forgot.
That would have been a cool guess too for the spell trap.
Dang. Well, I mean, I'm happy I got your finished, but I will forever be embarrassed by not getting the Nibiru, the primal piece.
I really thought your finished would be the key to the kingdom. I almost said, well, your finish is like the new Nibiru. But bad.
Well, that would have been a little bit too easy.
I had to physically grab myself and stop myself from saying it. Oh no! How really, embarrassing! No, I'm kidding. You did great.
I guess I'm the one that's finished today.
Maybe I should have given you one guess extra to make up for your bonus one from the spell trap. But there we go. No.
I play by the rules.
Play by the rules. You play by the rules. So many people who aren't content creators, who aren't pro players, will go up to the big events for selling. They will bring their cards. They will sell them at a profit or at a markdown, depending on whether they're nice or not. What do you think of vendors? Obviously, people do live off vending. It's a thing that people do. However, It's a dangerous game, I think, in terms of your mental health, in terms of tracking all those cards and numbers.
So I know of 2 people in my city, kind of in my local scene, who vending is what they do. Shout outs to Don. Every time that I show up to a large event, he hands me an extra copy of Terror King Salmon he found in his bulk. Man is a legend. I probably got half my copies because of our little arrangement.
Yeah.
But it is something you do all the time, and it means that you show up to locals and you don't play most of the time. It's like you often give up playing to be doing that because of both the time it takes and because your best time to sell is when the community is gathered, and that means that you can't be playing.
The guy who's like, I forgot to bring any IP Masquerena. Has anyone got an IP Masquerena?
Wow.
He's the guy who's got an IP Masquerena. He got 3.
I got it. And it's like it's usually they sit in the shop and they have got a bunch of binders out, and people go there like, hey, you got this? Can I look through your stuff? And I think it's interesting, right? I think on the whole, my experience with vendors has been good. Like a TCG player, I think when you get into like the online marketplace stuff, you can have some issues. Yeah. So the banlist happened recently, and that always is market craze. Even something as small as the one we got with 5 changes, lots of shifts in what people were buying. Fenrir from the Megatins goes from like $5 to $22 in like 10 minutes.
Because everyone thought he was going to be banned, so the costs were low because they thought there's no point buying your Fenrirs because next ban list is probably going to go to 1. It did not get hit at all, which means suddenly, oh my god, I need my Fenrirs. So everybody goes of it, and everybody does it in like a pack mentality. They all go at it once, and So like,
you run into stuff where people will like, oh, I didn't raise my prices, but somebody ordered them. Oh, oops, sorry. I was rearranging my inventory. I don't have them anymore. I will have to cancel your order. And let me just turn around and list them again for $5 higher 2 hours later, which is scummy, but I understand.
It's like you see both sides, because it's like I have a card that was worth £4 that's now worth £80. He bought it 10 minutes before I could change it. Like you feel bad for the guy. You'd want to probably offer like, I don't know, but it sucks. But that's the game. You're playing a shop game.
Yeah.
Like
it's tough when it's tough when I had it happen recently with Denglong. So I bought a Denglong like a week and a half before the ban list came out that unbanned it on TCG Player, and it didn't show up for like a month and a half. And so I eventually messaged. I was like, hey, where's this? And they just immediately refunded it. I was like, oh, so you didn't send it? Okay. I was like, well, all right then.
When I was collecting the ban list, it took me a couple of months to get the whole thing sorted. And in that time, I think we had about 3 ban lists, and it was crazy. Like, I got the Ptolemaeus like the week before it got unbanned, and that was like £2, and I was seeing it 30 for my copy, and my copy wasn't even the most expensive copy available. It was like 30 a copy. I was like, damn, this is an investment if I ever bother to sell any of these. But yeah,
that's wild. Yeah, and so if you can read the market right, then you can do pretty well for yourself. I know, like, there's people who like, well, Blaster got unbanned. They're like, here are my 50 copies of Blaster. Who wants them? And you can if you make that call correctly, you make a lot of money. It's shockingly, it is like very doable if you're right.
Yes.
However, the problem is being right. Anybody who invested in the super heavy samurai stuff to be flipping to people got absolutely dunked when it got hit in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You are constantly at the mercy of Konami and the reprint cycle and anything else. Like, you could be holding on to those. What was the big one lately? It was like Photon Lord.
Photon Lord. He's still a bit expensive. He is the most expensive number of the whole collection. I think even when you factored in my Ghost Rares, he was still more expensive than anything in my number collection so far. Luckily, I've had him since he came out, so I didn't actually have to buy him. But if I had to buy him, he would have been a real pain to buy. They have announced that he's finally getting a reprint in the Rarity collection, I believe.
It's either the Rarity collection or I think it's in Battles of Legend. The next...
it's coming.
I think it's sometime in February, I think is when it comes out. But even then, it's so expensive. So even like a reprint announcement can drop a card. So you could just be like, you could be making a decision about a market thing, and a reprint will get announced for like 9 months out, and then the price will go down. Maybe not that much, but it's still down from where you were.
Yeah.
And like anybody who bought Fenrirs at their peak, like the ultra rares from the set, and just didn't sell them, is now sitting on like a card that is not really very expensive anymore, or at least it's not as much as you paid for it, right? So, and ultimately,
or anyone who offloaded it before the ban list trying to keep some change, they have now wasted stuff that would be now higher. So it's a real roller coaster.
Yep, it's you are. So I think that is probably the way that most people try to make money off of the game, and it is doable, but it is risky, and there are probably more stable ways to do it.
Just before we wrap up today, how do you feel about the ban list? Last week, on Friday, same day as the last podcast, a new shiny ban list came out. It wasn't a long one, it was a short one, but it was a big one in many ways. How do you feel?
Well, speaking as somebody, I was at YCS Vancouver. That was the week before the ban list came out. So I've spent a lot of time in the format. I am somebody who is like usually very critical of the ban lists. I really strongly dislike a lot of Konami's design decisions, and there are a lot of things I don't like about this list, like what's not on it. But this is an 8 out of 10 for me. This is the first time I've looked at a ban list and been like, I agree with all of these decisions. A Rise Hard being banned is massive. It is hard to understate. It doesn't change the top level of the format that much, but from like tier 2 down, it opens up so many more strategies to be played. It opens up a lot more tech space. Previously, everybody and their mother was main decking Book of Moon and Book of Eclipse or siding Book of Eclipse. Now we can choose other cards. Forbidden Droplet is a card that's viable to play again because a Rise Heart is gone. Ultimate Slayer.
Yeah, a Rise Heart is an Xyz monster. You can summon it super easily in Kashtira, but you can summon it easily in some other decks like Vanquish Soul. It makes all cards from the field go to the banish, and it continuously pluses as you do so, and it lets you banish cards of your choice off the field. It was basically Dryden, which is another banned card that pops quickly, and it's a card like Dimension Shifter, which is a very powerful hand trap that has very hard limitations on when you can use it, but for cheaper and easier and freer and more powerful, and had a 3k body. It was very, very toxic, and it's very, very banned now. I 100% agree with you. Everything on this list I'm happy with. I wish there was more things on this list, but I am not annoyed by any of the things they did, and I'm actually quite pleased about every single thing that they did do. In that way, this list is amazing. Every decision was good. We just needed more decisions.
We needed more decisions. I agree. It is so. I'm holding out hope personally that we are going to get the crappy auto wins hit on the next list. Something that a lot of people wanted, including me, was bans to Eradicator, Epidemic Virus, Dimension Shifter, Dimensional Barrier, Harpy's Featherstorm, these lingering floodgates that do not have a reasonable existing counterplay to them. The continuous trap ones like Skill Drain and Rivalry and Gozen and Tikaboo all suck. But at least there's more available counterplay in the form of quick play back row removal.
You can run back row removal, but you can't run back row removal to lingering effects, because when a card like Dimension Shifter is activated, unless you negate the activation at the beginning, that's active for the whole turn, and your turn after that as well.
If you're the player going first, there are some options like cross out, although cross out for Shifter is... You shouldn't be asking people to do that. Same with cross out for Dimensional Barrier or Eradicator.
Cross out for anything. If the only answer to something is you have to run your own one and a cross out, that's a problem.
That sucks. Dimension Shifter specifically, I think, is the most egregious one. Normal trap cards have Psyframe Epsilon, which is cope, but is an option, right? So you at least have two. The Dimension Shifter, you have, if you're going second into it, your options are one copy of Gamma, which requires you to run one copy of Driver. And I think I have zero problem with powerful cards existing. I have problem with powerful cards existing that have no counterplay. And right now, Shifter is a card with no counterplay. Yeah. Shifter and Dimensional Barrier, presuming that the set lists are the same, are both in the Rarity Collection. So they were unlikely to be hit on this ban list. My hope is that this list was small so that the next list can axe some of these cards.
Thank you for your kind gifts, Lewis, Sean, Ben, John, Zaid, Z, Corin, Eric, Wolfie, Joel, Cat, and Chaos. Big appreciation all round.